website at uniquelivingja.com to shop.
Catch the E-Zone with me, the Stinger Honeybee, alongside
Kareem Boy Ting.
as we turn up the heat
in the street. New show.
New vibes.
Same us.
Same us.
Monday to Friday, 3 to 5 p.m.
Right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
We'll bring you entertainment news.
We'll take away your Monday blues.
You don't want to miss a week with us.
We'll talk health.
Well,
jump into the mix.
or the hot seat.
Don't miss the brain buster.
Or the crazy giveaway.
I mean, is this planet Earth?
Is it?
I don't know. Let me check. Either way, it's got a buzz.
And a bugger thing.
Ow.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Let's Start Justice. There's a little bit of a delay because I'm not in studio today, so I hope the listeners will forgive us if you hear a few seconds right there. But back to you, Kayla, because I know Novia had clarified for the listeners that you have different areas that we touch on. But I'm going to go back to Novia to touch on those areas. Well, let me start with Novia. Can you just run through what are the other topics that we look at for the HFLE?
Sure. So we've already acknowledged that there is a theme on sexual and reproductive health. There is a theme on self and interpersonal relations. So that is sort of looking at your own self-esteem, how you manage yourself, how you carry yourself, and then how you interact with others. There's a theme on eating and fitness. As we know, Jamaica has very high rates of obesity among children and adolescents. So this is meant to raise their awareness and encourage behaviors that help them to live a healthy lifestyle. And then the newest theme is around safety and security, as we are in a situation in Jamaica where you have to be alert, you have to be made self-aware of how to manage yourself in order to improve your own safety and security. And there's also managing the environment, another thematic area.
Yeah, the program has certainly seen some expansion, if you will, of the content. So, Kayla, from your perspective at JAN, what would you say to parents to be a little bit more au fait with these topics, to have conversations with their children? I know, JAN, for example, you have been doing quite a bit when it comes to the matter of food and nutrition. How do you say to parents, be aware and speak to your children a little bit more?
Okay, so in addition to, our main advocacy area, which would be nutrition, we have advocated and continue to advocate for the inclusion of comprehensive sexuality education in schools. And even though this would be curriculum based, also encouraging parents to be informed about not only, the ideas of sex and penetrative sex, but also, developing attitudes towards sex and values they need to instill in their children to ensure that they're making informed decisions. And that comes from them also being informed. As a society, I think that we see a lot of persons not knowing a lot about sexuality education in a very comprehensive way. And that kind of feeds into the stigma and taboos around relationships even and sex. So within schools, the hope is that, such a broad and comprehensive curriculum will properly equip children to make informed decisions. And even when they go home, they can have very open and candid conversations with their parents about what they're learning in schools, and it can contribute to their parents becoming more informed as well.
Yeah. Novia, from where you sit at UNICEF, I think, you know the battles that we've gone through as far back as the early 2000s and so on. When you hear the language of sexuality education, can you break that down for the listeners? Because I can imagine that there's some clutching of pearls happening as we're talking here.
Certainly. So as we know, this issue of education around around sex and sexuality is very, very sensitive, and that is important. It is very important because understand themselves and make decisions that are in their own best interests and make decisions that protect them it is a very sensitive topic. There are many areas where parents are critical. In fact, in all areas, parents are critical. Parents are certainly partners in making sure that children and young people have the right information, as in the correct information, and we're not spreading myths, and we're not sort of, if a child asks where do babies come from, we tell them a stork or something like that. So it's really critical that we understand how to give children and young people, especially children, the correct information in a manner that they can understand, and that is in a manner that is age appropriate. Those things are critical and important. That is why it is so sensitive, because many parents, and parents have said this to us, I don't know how to broach this subject. I'm really uncomfortable about this issue, and I don't know how to manage it. At the same time, they would like to manage it. They want to be able to communicate in a way that it don't seem, that their nerves don't show to their children. And the children themselves tell us that we really would like to get this information from our parents. But so much of that is lost. So much of it is, I really don't know how to do it, so I don't. So much of that is the child learning from a friend at school about something and then come home and might ask. And in some cases, children have told us we can't ask certain questions at home because we're going to get beaten or we're going to get punished for being so bright and out of order. So there has to be a space where the information is done, it is given in an age-appropriate manner. The HFLE curriculum has been through many revisions, and as Kayla said, a recent one in, I think, the last year, to ensure age appropriateness, to respond to the needs of the children, and to sort of toe that line, and also to engage parents as partners. The Ministry of Education has invested heavily in ensuring that HFLE is taught well and taught properly. As I was saying earlier, this tends to be perhaps the most sensitive of areas, but there are 4 other thematic areas that teachers have to be equipped to teach and to get across in a way that is not just talk and talk, because there is a particular way to teach where children are actually acquiring skills for life. They're able to ask questions, they're able to kind of learn how to assess and analyze for themselves, because the whole point of HFLE is to zone in on decision making. How do I make good decisions for my health, my safety, my life? Many times, I recall being in a meeting that the Ministry of Education facilitated, and really parents coming to the realization that when their children have tough decisions to make, am I going to, try this drug? Am I going to drink this alcohol? Am I going to go into that situation where I may be unsafe? We're not present as parents. We're not there. So the truth is we have to prepare these young people for those moments, because many times they will happen without our knowledge. We would never put our children in danger deliberately, but things are happening around them at school, on the road, in the communities, and they have to be prepared to make certain decisions. And that really is the goal of HFLE, is to help them to make certain decisions that do not rely on what their peers are thinking, but make decisions for themselves and stand on it and do what we would like to see our young people do, that protects their health, protects their safety, and where we can feel like we have equipped them for life. The issue around sex and sexuality, as I said, tends to be really rife with sensitivities naturally. And the ministry has incorporated into their curriculum a values base on the discussions that are facilitated in the classroom. So it's looking at the values that we would like you to build as you make these decisions, as you consider these, as you get older, that these things will come before you. These are decisions you have to make. The ministry has also hired HFLE only teachers. That's how serious they are taking it. At the beginning, when HFLE was just introduced, it was expected that you train some teachers who might teach English, who might teach history, who might teach something else, and they would make the time to teach HFLE. That was seen as less than ideal, and so the ministry has hired, I believe, some 200 HFLE teachers who only teach HFLE so they can dedicate their time and their attention to the issue, to the subject matter, to ensuring that young people are acquiring skills. It will take some time maybe for us to see some of the fruits, especially of these revised curricula. But
Before you move on,
we
Novia,
must
let
press
me bring
on.
in Kayla before the break, because there are two things I wanted to pick up with Kayla. We know that we have the 200 and odd HFLE educators now in the system. If you just could break down or recommend in the next 2 minutes for us, what would be your areas of recommendation to strengthen how the program is being communicated to youngsters?
Okay, so immediately I'm thinking that there needs to be proper monitoring and evaluation taking place within each of the schools in which the new HFLE teachers will be presenting to ensure that the curriculum is one being followed and taught, but also being done in such a way that the children are retaining and understanding the information. Because as it is right now, we go into schools and do HIV sensitization sessions, and a lot of the students, when we ask them if they have HFLE, say that they see it as a free period. We need to ensure that that's not the case anymore, and that they are being, taught this information in a way that they understand, that, as Novia said, is age appropriate, that is holistic, that not only, follows, sorry, excuse me, sexual health, but also the other thematic areas that also deal with nutrition, because we are preparing them for healthy lives and long lives as well. So first recommendation, ensuring that a proper, comprehensive monitoring and evaluation system is in place. I think also another recommendation is ensuring that students have a voice, that they're able to kind of chime in on what they think of the curriculum and what they think of the process, how they're receiving the information, be able to give the ministry feedback on that so that we can, continuously redevelop the curriculum, redevelop the program to ensure that they are being taught in a way that works for them and is just overall comprehensive and good.
Yeah, we have to take the break, but Novia, Kayla, I'm asking you to give us a few more minutes, because when we return, I want to touch on the matter of interpersonal relationships. Is that being taught in a way where children can understand the intimate partner violence that we see high levels even among our youngsters, especially at the high school level? So I wanted to broach that a little bit when we return, and then we touch on other things like consent and so on with our youngsters.
Ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
If it's important to you,
it's important to us.
Let Nationwide 90 FM be your first choice for your live broadcast.
We'll drive traffic to your company, increase your publicity, and work with your budget.
Reach your target audience with high-quality audio both on air and online.
Nationwide 90 FM should be the driving force to execute your live broadcast.
Contact our sales team today at 630-1210 or 630-1216.
Nationwide 90 FM live broadcasts covering your events and reaching your target audience.
At the Jamaica Customs Agency, we care for our employees, customers, stakeholders, citizens, and our country. Customs cares. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
So let's talk justice. The temperature out west in Montego Bay is 29 degrees Celsius and 30 here in Kingston. But let's move on. There's a little bit of a delay, and our apologies to our listeners for that. But before we went off on the break, I was mentioning to Kayla and Novia that we see other components of the curriculum that touches on things like self and interpersonal relationships. And one of the areas that we flagged here at JFJ is the fact that we have seen high levels of intimate partner or violence in terms of girlfriend and boyfriend situations where unfortunately we don't know how to control the temperature a little bit. Sometimes when we talk about domestic violence and what we call IPV, intimate partner violence, we tend to look at it at adults. But you have youngsters who are in relationships and you see that type of phenomena happening. Kayla, I'm not sure from where you sit at JN if it's something that you've observed, and how can we share information with children that when you have your boyfriend, girlfriend situations happening, especially age appropriate ones, 15, 16 years old, how do we control some of those situations? Again, age appropriate sharing, but it's information we believe ought to be taught. What is your perspective at JN?
We believe that it should be included in curriculum and taught as well because, yes, it's intimate partner violence, but when talking about adolescents, it's normally referred to as teen dating violence. And it's a reality that we face. And going back to Jamaican society, it is not seen as appropriate to be involved in, those type of relationships when you're a child, an adolescent. So the support given and information given is normally very limited. So the instances that we see now are that intimate partner violence is happening at the adolescent stage, and a lot of it comes from persons not understanding, their own sexual health and also the autonomy that they have over their bodies. So a big part of having a really comprehensive HFLE curriculum and program is actually violence prevention. So we can educate students and even teach them about gender-based violence and also the idea of coercion as well. You mentioned the child diversion program and how some of the offenses are actually sexual offenses, and it's happening in children. It's a reality we face. So I think in crafting these types of programs, we can't ignore the realities that we're facing now because it puts our children at risk.
Yeah. Novia, from where you sit at UNICEF, the matter of consent, this is something I'm not sure if parents explain sufficiently or we just leave it up to the school system to deal with? Or just or is it a case when perhaps as parents we're leaving it up to TikTok and IG to teach our children and educate them on these things? How do we break down consent and coercion to our youngsters as they're having normal adolescent feelings?
That's such a great question. It comes up a lot, actually, when we are among young people, especially girls. Our girls are generally feel disrespected because they feel like, and it goes beyond even that girlfriend-boyfriend dynamic to even family, where, I don't want to be hugged, I don't want to sit on your lap, I don't want to have to be forced to, come in close contact with that person or this person. And so it is very important for parents, if we're expecting our girls, our boys, to be able to say no to something that feels uncomfortable, we have to at first respect their no from as young as they are. So that is very important in a family setting. In as well, teaching that your children or children to respect themselves. If they respect themselves, they will expect to respect someone else. It's likely that can follow. So it is very, very important that we see this as not, as you said, Mikkel, it's not an issue for the schools. It's definitely not an issue for social media. So how can we equip our parents to manage these issues better at home, and then we can have the school reinforcing, the life skills and so on that they need. Interestingly, whenever we talk to young people, to children, they ask us, what are you doing about our parents? Our parents cannot even entertain certain conversations with us. There are certain difficult things that we'd like to speak to them about, but they run away, then tell we can't talk about that. We must.
Are you forced right? That kind of language.
So exactly. So it is really important for us as parents to get comfortable with these uncomfortable things that maybe we never had the support and the instruction on. But if we're looking to change something, if we're looking to do better, we have to be able to sit with our children and have these kinds of discussions. So that whole respect for yourself, that whole issue. One of the things that I recall, 2016, the Ministry of Health did a study on 10 to 16-year-olds. It's called the Youth Risk and Resiliency Survey. And in that study, it showed that the percentage of children between 10 and 14 who were sexually active, there was a significant percentage, I'm sorry, I don't have it in my head right now, but who did not consent to the sexual act. Not that you can legally consent, but they said they didn't know how to say no.
Yes.
That is amazing. I did not know how to refuse. It is so important that we teach our children to say no and to respect their no. Really important that you learn that at home, that my no is respected here, so I can move out into the world confident that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah. I'm happy you said that, because one of the issues, and I've had the opportunity to speak with youngsters, and interestingly enough, they repeat some of the same things that we hear adult men say. For example, if a young lady is with me at a particular time, or we're watching TV together in my house after a particular hour, so to speak, then automatically that means consent. These are some of the conversations that we still hear happening among our youngsters, which again, it translates into adulthood. So I'm happy you said that, Nova. And I have a question here. Nova, I'm going to put this one to you before I get back to Kayla. This is a comment on the YouTube platform. What are schools doing about LGBT students, inclusive of tertiary education students?
I really cannot speak to tertiary level, and I'm not sure that there is any response that is special to young people who may identify as LGBTQ. I believe that the curriculum is given to the entire class, and I don't think that there is any special outreach to any child. But how would anybody sometimes even know? And if a child does report, there may be steps to take in terms of getting that child to speak to somebody, a professional in the school, a guidance counselor who may engage, the family, the parents, and try and take it back to that level in terms of even some kind of support. But I don't know that there is any kind of special program for that group of young people.
Yeah, and thanks, Nova, because it's a difficult one to manage in a conservative society. So what we do encourage the teachers to do is just to be cognizant that there may be differences and ensure that the material is being taught in a way that all children can receive it based on however they identify and so on. And again, utilizing the guidance counselors a little bit more. Kayla, over to you with just perhaps saying to parents, especially those who are parents of children in the early adolescent years, what would be your advice on going forward with teaching information, for example, on healthy dating, healthy engagement, while ensuring that we still promote messages of abstinence? What is the healthy information that you would recommend?
I feel like this recommendation is coming from what I would have wanted to hear while I was 13, 14 and navigating that part of high school and adolescence. To not villainize children for having normal human feelings, rather guiding them through those feelings and ensuring that you're involved in their lives. Ask about what's going on. I think a lot of the times we don't think, or parents don't think, that they should be having those conversations with children, because why are they even having those feelings in the first place? But the reality is that children have feelings, and then these relationships come about. You want to ensure that you are having a hand in protecting your children and ensuring that you instill them with all the information necessary for them to make informed decisions. And also, as Novia said, instilling the idea that no is a complete sentence, stressing the fact that they have autonomy over their own bodies, that they are responsible for, how they navigate their relationships, and they have a say in those relationships as well. So I think not isolating those conversations, or isolating your children in general when it comes to those years, because, children have phases where they become rebellious, or, you think that they are not having manners or anything like that in their adolescence. And that's normal and that's fine, but try not to abandon them in this very critical point in their lives. And going back to the HFLE curriculum, kind of familiarize yourself with it so that you know what is being taught there, and you can kind of translate that to what's happening at home.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nova, I'm going to give you the last word. But, as Kayla was speaking, I don't know if perhaps we could charge the National Parenting Commission to do perhaps like a parent's guide, both video and a brochure format. I'm not sure if that is something that exists, Nova. But I as Kayla was talking, it jumped out at me that perhaps that's something we could recommend that the parents could use. How to have conversations with children.
I think that's a great recommendation, Mikkel, and we recognize that especially as children move into the stage of adolescence, when their bodies begin to change, and not just their bodies, but their brains, and the way how they communicate changes, and sometimes that, we parents have a hard time with that. But what I would like to encourage our parents, our schools to do is to work as a team. It cannot happen if we're not working as a team. And so it is critical that, yes, they're getting the HFLE, the life skills at school, which, it doesn't touch on some of the nuances that our young people are being challenged with in their daily lives. That young people have told us time and time and time again that we want our parents equipped to have these conversations, that the home is an important place for growth and development. We have to equip our parents to have these discussions, and I just want to encourage every parent, talk to your child without prejudice. Talk to your child and get to know the person that is evolving in front of you, the person, trust the fact that you have been working to instill values that will stick. You might not hear it at every utterance, but trust that your values are important to your child and that you have a lot of influence on this person and they want to talk to you. Believe me, that's what they tell us when we go out there. We want our parents to be ready for these conversations. And so it is really important that we ensure that it's a team effort. Building life skills is not a one-day thing. It's a process. And so we just want to leave your listeners with that, Mikhail.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Kayla Wright, Attorney at Law Program Officer with Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, and Novia Condell, who is the health specialist with UNICEF. Really appreciate you both taking the time on a Monday morning when there is a tropical depression heading our way that could impact us. So please keep safe. And again, we say thanks.
Thank you, Mikhail. You too.
You know, before we move on, listeners, you know, we hear these conversations every time, and there are recommendations, for example, to increase the age of consent. But you realize it's much more nuanced than an increase, because children will have feelings that they will explore. So how do we have conversations about dating and so on? You know, I'm a teacher's daughter, and I can tell you, boyfriend was nothing that I could say with my mother. She can have the conversation with her grandson now, but back in the day, Mikhail saying the word boyfriend, the amount of beating I would get, it would not, you know, you wouldn't like to know this scalding of the skin, because you have to ensure that your child pass through and go through school and does not fall to teenage pregnancy. These are the real fears that parents have, but we have to learn to navigate with the conversations about healthy dating. We play chaperone, and it's not a middle class thing I'm discussing now. This is just a real way. You can have a parent take the two children out to KFC at an appropriate age, and they sit couple chairs back and they sit down and have these conversations. But the language around consent, gender-based violence, knowing when to say no and so on, it's something we really have to learn as Jamaican parents going forward. So again, much food for thought, but I tell you, when we look at the child diversion survey and the children who come in contact with the law, some 60% of the children who are being diverted, they were being diverted on the basis of minor sexual offenses, boyfriend and girlfriend sex. How do we fix that going forward and have conversations in a way that really makes sense? So before we move on, we have Nicholas Richards, our community engagement. Nicholas, sometimes I can't remember your title. It's so long. And I framed it and I can't remember. Community Engagement and Outreach Officer. Right? So you're going to be sharing with us on the run, and it's about 5 minutes to get people excited and start warming up the muscles for December.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. 5 minutes. Okay. Tough task. So if you see me, you know that I will be talking about the big events of Jamaicans for Justice. So upcoming, in your minds, you have to keep December 8th and December 10th. But today we're all talking about December 8th, which is our Run for Rights 5K. So if you want to run, if you want to walk, as Ms. Jackson said, prepare the muscles in the morning to get 5 minutes and stretch. You look a walk, you look a jog, and prepare yourself for our Run for Rights 5K on December 8th. So we start off at warm up at 6:30 a.m. Race time is 7 a.m. And then we go traverse our nice scenic route. And then we have a nice little entertainment package afterwards with a lot of activities and excitement. Now the run, it's not a simple run. It's not a usual run. something different. Because, we're innovative,
Up in the
we're
hills of
innovators. Huh?
You're taking us up in the hills of Jacksonville because of our
We have.
yes.
So we're going through the hills of Jacksonville, and it's very important because that is where that location was very instrumental in the formation of JFJ, the gas riots in 1999, right? But the reason why we're having this run is because we really want to bring awareness to different critical human rights issues. So we'll be running for general human rights, for child rights, which is definitely timely with this show about the Health and Family Life Education Program. So we'll be running for child rights. We'll also be running for climate justice, and we'll also be running for gender-based and domestic violence. Now, the nice thing is, if you or your friend feel specifically passionate about a specific thematic area, you can choose to run in support of that area. And I'm gonna plug this in. We have really nice shirts, guys. Mana front. Not because it's us. I'm not biased. We have really nice shirts that each thematic area will be getting a specific stylized shirt that represents the area that we are running in support of. Also, it will be hosted by Jenny. So you know that we're gonna have the vibes. She's called the Energizer for a reason. So we're gonna have
the Energizer goddess.
Right. So we're gonna have the vibes and different activities, and we're also gonna have performances. Now we're not gonna give you all of that, no. But you have to stay tuned to know who will be performing and all of those niceties. So how can you register? Now, registration, it is $2,000 for an individual person registering, and then for teams of 20 or more, $1,500 each. So you have to make sure you get all your friends, get all your sisters and brothers from church, all your co-workers, and team up and come with the entire crew to run or walk for the Run for Rights. All right, so my colleague is distracting me. So how do you register? You come on our Instagram page at JA for Justice on Instagram. On X, it's Jamaicans for Justice, and you will see our flyer there. It will take you to our link where you can register for the run. Guys, time I wind down. Time is ticking. Make sure you come and register and you join this momentous occasion. It's gonna be a nice one. It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be an impactful one. You can't miss it. Did I miss anything?
Okay, thank you so much, Nicholas, for sharing. Really appreciate the efforts. We're going to take the temperature check.
At the Jamaica Customs Agency, we care for our employees, customers, stakeholders, citizens, and our country. Customs cares. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius in St. James, Montego Bay, and 30 degrees Celsius here in Kingston, Jamaica. Right. So we have, let me just focus on the trivia winner. The team is going to tell me Carrie Ellis on Instagram won one of the trivia. I'm not sure which one as yet. So it seems as if only one of the trivia questions have been successful, but I will wait on the team. But in the last couple of minutes before I go back to the trivia question and the win, we had a press conference that was hosted by Indicom, and there are several things that I want to touch on. Let me get my notes here quickly. The crime rate is high in Jamaica, and we're seeing some improvements, reduction. We extend our condolences to the families of those who were killed recently, another mass shooting, which is a cause for concern for all of us. But we are seeing some reduction in the crime rates, and it's something that we should all galvanize around and support the Jamaica Constabulary Force. But there should always be a balance when we're looking at these things. And when we look at some statistics that was shared from Indicom, we're now at 151 Jamaican citizens being fatally shot by members of the security forces, 2 of whom were killed in November, and today is November 4th. 151. I want to put some things in perspective. In 2019, we had our lowest fatality rates of Jamaicans killed by members of the security forces. 86 persons were killed in 2019. And for a democratic country, we're happy to see those reduced numbers. In 2020, the figure went up to 115. In 2021, 127. 2022, 134. And 2023, 155 Jamaican citizens killed by members of the security forces. And as I stated earlier, 151 has been killed as at today. 151, last year it was 155. So in other words, based on the data and the statistics, we're seeing where we're projected to exceed the number of citizens killed by the security forces in at least 11 years. This is not good for a democratic country. What is even more alarming is that in none of these situations was the body-worn camera actually turned on. That is unacceptable. Since Jamaica piloted the body-worn camera program a few years back, we have heard about them not fitting on the uniform. We have heard in most recent times that we need the technology. But we do have body-worn cameras deployed. And it is unacceptable that police officers can opt not to turn them on, but you have more citizens being killed. How do we ensure that there is accountability? How do we ensure that we mandate officers to turn the camera on? Because yes, we have to be looking at things on a case-by-case basis. Yes, we understand that in some situations, people are challenging the law enforcement officers, and they have to do what they have to do to protect their lives and the lives of other citizens. But we have no independent evidence to say that this was a lawful killing because the body-worn cameras are not being turned on, and yet still we have no accountability where that is concerned. It's unacceptable, and I think the Jamaica Constabulary Force must say to the Jamaican people, while we have officers doing whatever they feel like they want to do, how do we ensure that a law mandates officers that once you have a body-worn camera, you must turn it on? You have no choice in the matter. We must do better. 151 people killed by the state. I want to remind citizens that Teron Hewitt, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, shot. Romario Sterling, shot. Let's put these things in perspective. You have citizens that have died under questionable circumstances, yet still we have officers saying, I haven't turned on the body-worn cameras that we have all invested our taxpayer monies into. Accountability is important. And yet we laud our officers, obviously, because they're there defending all of us. But in that situation, we need to ensure that there is independent evidence and accountability. We are projected to exceed the number of people killed by the state in over 11 years. We're not moving in the right direction. So we have to look at fixing some of those things. But before we close out, just to remind that we had Carrie Ellis on Instagram winning the trivia. And it was the trivia that asked you the question, what is the name of the policy that guides the health and family life education curriculum? And it really is the HFLE policy. It's nothing more than that. So welcome to, or congrats to Carrie for the winning. So we will see you next week. So thanks again for tuning in to Let's Start Justice. My name is Mikkel Jackson, Executive Director, and it was a pleasure being with you another Monday. Have a good day.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives